Getting you ready for the toughest stretch of the season so far for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Are there actually going to be meaningful changes to the Suns front office? And is the work done for the Arizona Cardinals? All of that, the focus of today's lunch break here on KDUS AM 1060. We welcome you in to the Tuesday edition of the program. Chris Schubert with you for the next 2 hours on this Tuesday edition of the show. We got Evan behind the glass, pushing all the buttons, taking your phone calls at 480-864-1060. And if you're interested, you can always watch the show over on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. A 16-game stretch for the Arizona Diamondbacks that may make or break their season in a lot of ways gets started tonight. The work for the Arizona Cardinals, is it all done? And the NBA playoffs kind of messing with the offseason plans in some ways for the Phoenix Suns. But we will start today with the baseball team.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
We first touched on this yesterday, and we set the stage for what begins tonight. 16 games, 5 series against what can only be described as the best of the best in the National League. 3-game series tonight with the Mets, 3-game series in Philadelphia with the Phillies. You come back home, another series with the Mets, 4-game set with the Dodgers, and you finish that off with a 3-game series in San Francisco against the Giants. Team that's leading the NL East and the Mets, the first team to 20 wins. You play them for 6 of those 16 games. You get 2 division rivals. Our first chance to see how this team stands up against the Dodgers, to see how this team stacks up against the Giants. And oh yeah, in the middle of all of it, just a nice series with the Philadelphia Phillies, who were a playoff team a year ago. Day after day during this 16-game stretch, it is a battle test for this Diamondbacks team. And so let's get ahead of it. What does this team need to accomplish during this 16-game stretch? We yesterday said, I think your overall hope here is to just stay afloat. Your overall hope is to not slide too far backwards, to stay within striking distance of the National League West, which by and large you have done despite losing Ketel Marte 8 games into the season, despite your starting pitching being hot and cold throughout these first 28 games or so, losing all of the bullpen arms that you have lost so far through 28 games of the season, a lot of adversity that this team has already faced. They have relatively stayed close. I think the 15-13 record, we would expect it to be better. We would expect them to be closer than 4th place in the NL West. That has a lot to do with how good San Francisco has been, with how good the Dodgers, the Padres, just being the standard bearers of National League Baseball. And yet, despite all of the struggles and all of the games that they've given away and the injuries that have stacked up, this is still a team that is 3.5 games back of the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers, who both come into the day at 19-10. So what does this team need to do? What does this team need to accomplish? Is it a certain win total? Is it going at least 8-8, keeping yourself above water? Because even if you go 8-8, if in that same 16-game stretch, the Dodgers go 10-6, they gain 2 games on you. The Giants, they gain 2 games on you, and a 3.5-game deficit turns into a 5.5-game deficit. So, what does this team need to accomplish over these next 16 games? Is 8-8 enough? Is treading above water enough? And I think the way that I want to set the bar for this, I would love to hear from you on this at 480-864-1060 or over on YouTube, where Michael has a fantastic suggestion that we may want to implement here in just a second. I think the bar should be set if you can get past this 16-game stretch in which you're about to, it looks like, get some reinforcements to the bullpen, a big key reinforcement to the bullpen. At some point, the expectation is that Ketel Marte will rejoin this team during this stretch, even perhaps during this 6-game road trip with New York and Philly on the calendar. I think the bar should be set that after this 16 games is done, this team is still, at worst, 3.5 games out of first place. That is, by definition, treading water and not allowing the season to fall off the rails during this 16-game stretch. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. With the way that we talked about this team at the beginning of the season, that should be the bare minimum. That the expectation is you go into Philly and you show that you're a team to be reckoned with. You go into New York. You face them 6 times in this 16-game stretch. You go 4-2 against the New York Mets. You send them back to reality a little bit. They play a team that's above 500, and they see where they're at in the pecking order of the National League. With a rotation that's supposed to be just as good, if not better, as the Dodgers, with Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte and Josh Naylor and Pavin Smith and all of the guys that we were talking about before the season, getting through this stretch and being in the same spot you were in before would be a disappointment to many. But this is where the context of the season matters. This team, without a win on Sunday, would be in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. They have not played anywhere near their best baseball in the last week or so. We are having a crisis of confidence about the Diamondbacks bullpen on a hourly basis here on this show. This week, this is our 3rd hour of the week. Once again, here we are talking about the Diamondbacks bullpen and the worry, the lack of confidence that we have in this group. Their number 2 hitter right now, we're going to talk in hour number 2 of the program, if he needs to be moved out of that spot in the lineup. Other than Brandon Pfaadt, you are not getting the reliable starting pitching across the board that this team was expecting. So yeah, before the season, you looked at this 16-game stretch as a way for you to make a statement to the rest of the league. And that opportunity still exists. But through the first 28 games, we've got some small fires that we're trying to put out as a team right now. We're trying to see if this bullpen has enough reinforcements. And if the one guy that it looks like they're going to activate to their roster later on today, because they haven't officially done it yet, if Kevin Ginkel's reemergence into this bullpen is the magic secret sauce that fixes their issues. If getting Ketel Marte helps the bottom part of the lineup, 2 guys in particular that have been struggling lately in Lourdes Gurriel and Geraldo Perdomo. These are all questions that we have entering a 16-game stretch where, you know who right now isn't asking a ton of questions about their baseball team? New York Mets fans. You know who isn't asking a ton of serious, hard questions about where their baseball team is at? The LA Dodgers and their fan base are not having these conversations. San Francisco Sports Talk Radio is not littered with phone calls today wondering about the bullpen, wondering about when Ketel Marte is coming back. They don't have those situations. They're a team that's in first place playing some pretty darn good baseball. So while at the beginning of the season, you circled this 16-game stretch and said, this is a tough stretch, but it is a way for us to let the rest of the baseball world know that we are here and we're ready to make noise. Now, you look at this 16-game stretch and you enter it going, boy, I hope that when we get through the other side of this, that we're still close enough to the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. And so it's not a win total. It's not a you have to go 8-8, you have to go 9-7, you have to go 10-6. It's not a specific number. It's, I think, worst case scenario, this team needs to be 3.5 games back, which is exactly where they are today when they start this 16-game stretch. I don't care what their record looks like, as long as when we get to the other side of this, they are still within striking distance. They're within those 3.5 games. I think that we would be able to classify this as a successful 16-game trip. Now, you go 4-12 in these 16 games, and for whatever reason, everybody else in the division struggles, and you stay within 3.5 games. I don't know if we're going to call that a successful road trip. I think you're going to have to win a decent amount of games for that to be the case, but I think it is possible. And so I don't want to put a number on it. Michael said, can we put up the next 16 games like it's an NFL schedule and play the win-loss game? I think everybody's just jonesing for the NFL schedule to come out so we can play the win-loss game later in the month of May.
Somebody was excited about that tease.
Listen, when you tease something a month in advance, that's how you know you're doing radio correctly. And we got the people excited about it. I mean, we can do it. I only have the starting pitching matchups about halfway through. There's about 6 games worth of this trip that we don't have pitching matchups for. But you look at the 3 that you're going to get against the New York Mets, and you're going to face their 3 best starters. David Peterson, Kodai Senga, and Clay Holmes statistically have been their best starters this season. And you're throwing Erod, Corbin Burns, Zach Allen, 2 of your 3 best starters. It's on the road, 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3, at least. Can't get swept. You go to Philly, we can ask our resident Philadelphia Phillies expert, what should Diamondbacks fans have as their standard for that series? Is 2 out of 3 on the table?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you're going to come into a part of the rotation. Wheeler pitches today for the Phillies, so you might see him on Wednesday.
They would catch him on Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday he pitches. It's the pitching matchup as it is currently situated would be Eduardo Rodriguez against Zach Wheeler on Sunday at 11:05.
Yeah, so listen, I think that the Phillies will steal that one, but this is an offense that has really been struggling. I know the Phillies just took 2 of 3 in Chicago, but they didn't do that because the bats woke up or anything. I know they scored 10 runs on Saturday, but the Phillies really have been bad over the last 2 weeks. I mean, we watched that Phillies-Mets series, and you walk away from saying that, like, the Phillies have a horrible approach.
So 2 out of 3 there, definitely on the table. You play New York here. In that series, you have Burns, Gallen, Kelly. I'm sorry, but when a series lines up and I have Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, and Merrill Kelly going in that series, the expectation for me is you got to win 2 out of 3. When those 3 guys are on the mound, I have to win 2 out of 3 of those starts. So 2 out of 3 in Philly, 2 out of 3 when you're home against New York. That's 4 wins right there. I look at Brandon Pfaadt getting a couple of starts here during this stretch. He plays the Phillies on Saturday. He'll pitch against them later on this week. He gets the opener against the Dodgers on Thursday. Brandon Pfaadt, Roki Sasaki is the pitching matchup there. I mean, listen, if you want to wash away the concerns that we have about the bullpen, if you want to wash away the concerns that we have about the bottom of the order, if you want to wash away the concerns that we have about everybody not named Brandon Pfaadt in the rotation, this is your 16-game stretch to prove that to us. You come through this 16-game stretch and you go 10-6, you go 11-5, I'm going to be impressed by that because that means you're doing the little things right. You're going to get good quality starting pitching. Your bullpen is going to hold on to a bunch of leads. The bats are going to wake up. That's the only way you're going to get to a place where you win that many games and you stay within that 3.5 game mark. So I don't want to put an exact number on it. I think that's unfair and it's unrealistic because you don't know what the other teams during these next 16 games are going to do. But for me, we have to get to Monday. We have to get to Thursday, May 15th, an off day for the Diamondbacks. They will then start a 3-game home series against Colorado. We have to be previewing that Colorado series, ending that San Francisco series, talking about a team that is still within 3.5 games of the National League West. If they do that, this is a successful stretch. This is them answering their first major tough test, and I think it would go a long way for all of us to breathe a sigh of relief about the worries and struggles that we have watched this team go through so far through the first 28 games of the season. That is what is in front of them, and it starts tonight with the New York Mets on the dish.